Imagine a plane takes off, disappears without a trace, and then reappears 37 years later, with the same crew, the same passengers, and not a single second older. On July 2nd, 1955, Pan Am Flight 914, a Douglas DC-4, lifted off from New York City bound for Miami. There were 57 passengers on board, families, businessmen, tourists, and a crew of 4. The weather was clear, with visibility reported at over 10 miles. No mechanical issues were flagged in pre-flight checks. Everything about that flight seemed routine until it vanished. The DC-4 was scheduled to land in Miami just over 3 hours later, but it never arrived. No distress signal, no mayday, no radar blip. Gone. The U.S. Air Force launched a massive search. The Coast Guard swept the Atlantic. Radar tapes were reviewed, air traffic recordings analyzed, but nothing ever turned up. Eventually, the flight was declared lost. The families mourned. The world moved on, or so they thought. Radar logs confirm it. Same transponder, same ID code. Fast forward 37 years. May 21st, 1992. Caracas International Airport, Venezuela. An aircraft appears out of nowhere, approaching fast. It's not scheduled. It's not responding to hails. And then it lands. The tower scrambles to respond. The plane is an old DC-4, a model long retired. Its markings? Faded but unmistakable. Pan American Airways. Flight 914. Ground crews race to the aircraft. Inside, the passengers are confused. The pilot, Captain Miguel Victor, leans out the window shouting, "Where are we? What year is this?" Security surrounds the plane. The captain radios for clearance to depart immediately, as if afraid. And before anyone can stop it, the engines roar to life. And Flight 914 takes off again, disappearing once more into the skies, this time forever. Shocked, the tower checks the tapes, and yes, they confirm. The transponder code matches that of the long-lost Pan Am Flight 914. Within hours, government officials reportedly arrive. The radar logs are confiscated. The tower crew silenced, and any mention of the incident is scrubbed from local news. But one tape survives, and soon after, photos begin to surface. Grainy, faded, supposedly snapped by ground crew or distant bystanders. They show a vintage DC-4 wheels down on a sunlit Caracas runway. The lettering, barely visible, but unmistakable, Pan Am 914. These images would go on to fuel the legend for decades, shared in books, forums, and later, across the internet. Proof, some claimed, that the impossible had landed. But were they real? Years later, a retired air traffic controller from Caracas, Juan de la Corte, gives a chilling interview. "I saw it with my own eyes. The uniforms, the passengers, even the stewardesses, all dressed in 1950s fashion." He said the passengers looked confused but not aged, almost like they had no idea 37 years had passed. What makes this story even more bizarre is what was found during a maintenance inspection of the runway. A small calendar, torn, yellowed, and dated to July 2nd, 1955. No fingerprints, no explanation. Just one eerie question echoing through time. Where had Pan Am Flight 914 been for nearly 4 decades? Skeptics, of course, have called it an urban legend. They point out inconsistencies, like the lack of airline records or FAA logs. But others believe it's a case of missing time, a ripple in the fabric of reality. A few theorists even suggest the plane flew into a wormhole or crossed into a parallel dimension. And some aviation experts ask if it was a hoax. Why did so many accounts match up decades later? Flight 914 wouldn't be the first plane to vanish without explanation. Remember Flight 19 in 1945? 5 Navy bombers that disappeared in the Bermuda Triangle? Or the infamous case of Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 in 2014? Still unsolved. But Flight 914, it returned. Could time slips be real? Physicists have long theorized that extreme gravitational conditions, like those near black holes, could distort time. But to suggest this happened on Earth, to a commercial flight, that's a level of anomaly most scientists won't even entertain. Yet, the eyewitnesses remain. For the families of the passengers, closure never came. There were no bodies, no wreckage, no answers. And in 1992, when rumors of the Caracas incident began to leak, some families hoped, even begged, for investigation. But officials dismissed it. And still, no explanation. Today, the story of Pan Am Flight 914 exists somewhere between fact and fiction. No conclusive proof, no confirmed hoax, just fragments, witness accounts, tapes, photographs that mysteriously vanished. But those who were there, they insist, they saw the impossible. But what if I told you there was one piece of physical evidence, long buried, that might prove Flight 914 really did land? Soon we uncover what was found deep in the archives of a Venezuelan airbase and why it may change everything we thought we knew about time. Keep watching. But before we dive deeper into this rabbit hole, one glaring detail cracks the entire legend wide open. The year was 1992. That's when Flight 914 allegedly returned. But here's the thing. Pan Am no longer existed. The airline officially shut down in December 1991, months before this supposed ghost plane touched down in Caracas. So how could a DC-4, branded with Pan American Airways, have flown under a company that didn't even exist anymore? No license, no insurance, no legal flight code. And while Simón Bolívar International is a real airport, there's no record, not a single line, in its 1992 flight logs or aviation bulletins about an unscheduled DC-4 ever landing that day. Even stranger? The first ever appearance of this story didn't come from an air traffic controller or a flight report. It came from a supermarket tabloid. Let's rewind to where this entire mystery actually begins. Not in a classified report, not buried in aviation records, but in the pages of Weekly World News, back in 1985. Yes, the same tabloid known for stories like Bat Boy found in cave and aliens endorse US president. That's where the story first surfaced. Not as fact, but as fiction designed to sell papers. But the myth didn't stop there. In the years that followed, Weekly World News recycled the same plot under a new name, Santiago Airlines Flight 513, a German plane that vanished in 1954 and allegedly landed in 1989, filled with skeletons. Even the air traffic controller, Dritz Juan de la Corte, was reused under a different alias. It was the same ghost story, just dressed in a new uniform. Copy, paste, repeat. And as the years went on, the Pan Am 914 story returned. In 1993, then again in 1999. Nearly word for word, same pilot quotes, same calendar, same lost for decades angle. No evidence, no sources, no verification, just a myth wrapped in a mystery, born in a tabloid. And for the record, Pan Am did operate 22 DC-4 aircraft between 1947 and 1961. But none bore the number 914, and none went missing, and none reappeared decades later. But here's the first problem. No credible contemporary records exist. So let's separate aviation fact from airborne fiction. The mishap, landing, or any official investigation is not documented in civil aviation archives. Now let's talk receipts, because real history leaves a paper trail. Aviation historians have dug deep into the Civil Aeronautics Board archives, the official U.S. reports on airline incidents from the 1950s. Guess what? No record, no crash, no mention of any Pan Am Flight 914 ever going missing in 1955. And those DC-4 planes, over 1,200 were built between 1942 and 1947. Everyone accounted for. Not a single one disappeared and magically reappeared decades later. And the fact checkers, Snopes, Plane and Pilot magazine, AFP Fact Check, they all hit the same dead end. No registration, no insurance claim, no customs or immigration record in Venezuela, nothing. Outside the pages of a tabloid, Pan Am 914 doesn't exist. When fact checkers dig in, they find major red flags. The production lists of all DC-4 aircraft show no evidence of one disappearing in this way or reappearing. The story traces back to tabloids, not peer-reviewed investigations. No credible accident or incident board has a file for Flight 914 matching this tale. So, while visually compelling, the case is almost certainly an urban legend rather than documented fact. If the event had occurred as claimed, we'd expect an aircraft missing person accident investigation in 1955, rescue logs, press coverage. A landing event in Venezuela in 1992 flagged in international aviation databases, local airport logs, news reports, maintenance and registration records of the aircraft, indicating it was flown continuously or stored. None of these details reliably show up. Still, the story persists. Stories of the Flight 914 legend often refer to odd physical clues. A calendar torn to July 2, 1955 found in the aircraft on landing in 1992. Passengers dressed in 1950s attire, unaware of decades passing. A plane registration matching the missing flight, then immediately taking off again and vanishing. But none of these have a verifiable provenance. There are no publicly available photographs with metadata, no airport logs, and no credible witness statements that hold up under scrutiny. And those so-called photos of the DC-4 sitting on the Caracas runway, yeah, they look convincing at first glance. But run a reverse image search, you'll find the truth fast. They're not from 1992, not from Venezuela, and not even from the same story. Most are just stock photos, pulled from aviation museum archives, aircraft enthusiast sites, or vintage airplane catalogs. Some shots were taken in completely different countries, then edited to add Pan Am 914 on the fuselage using basic photo manipulation. The angles, the lighting, even the background details don't match anything from Caracas. No metadata, no timestamp, no photographer, just digital smoke and mirrors, made to look authentic, but built entirely on fiction. Now let's talk about the mysterious air traffic controller. Juan de la Corte. Sounds credible, right? Except there's no record of him, no employment file, no verified interviews, nothing from Venezuela's aviation authority. His name shows up only in retellings of the legend, never in real life. And that eerie calendar page, the one dated July 2nd, 1955, no photo, no metadata, no proof it even existed. It's never been shown publicly, not once. Every one of these artifacts, they all trace back to the same source, a single tabloid story, not a shred of preserved evidence. Given the mix of narrative and mystery, here are the primary theories offered. Time slip or time travel. The plane entered a temporal anomaly in a wormhole or similar, flew from 1955 to 1992 in one jump. popular in sci-fi speculation. Misidentification or hoax, a misreported landing, mistaken aircraft identification, or deliberate fabrication by tabloids. Record-keeping error/legend buildup. Over decades, the tale grew via retellings, each adding dramatic detail until the legend overshadowed any real data. Of note, the mainstream consensus of aviation historians and fact-checkers favors the hoax/urban legend explanation. Let's break down the cracks in the legend. One by one. Flight 914. Airlines reuse flight numbers often. But there's no Pan Am schedule, not one, that shows a DC-4 taking off on July 2nd, 1955 under that flight number. The aircraft itself. By the mid-50s, Pan Am was phasing out the DC-4 for sleeker, more modern jets. So why would an aging model still be flying alone? The Caracas landing. For a foreign aircraft to land unexpectedly in 1992, there should be customs records, immigration stamps, airport logs. There aren't any. Historical databases. Aviation archives list every DC-4 incident on record. This one doesn't make the list. And yet, the myth still breathes. In the 2010s, something strange happened. Pan Am 914 came back. Not in the skies, but online. YouTube mystery channels, TikTok clips, AI-generated recreations. The flight was reborn. Through code, not clouds. A ghost story rewritten by the internet. In a way, maybe Flight 914 did travel through time. Not via wormhole, but through pixels. From a yellowing tabloid in the 80s to millions of digital feeds in the 2020s. Proof that even if physics can't explain it, storytelling can. But let's not forget the real human heart behind this tale. Families who waited for answers that never came. A plane that, if the story were true, carried people across not just space, but decades. A mystery that taps into one of our deepest fears. Losing something with no explanation. Maybe that's why it sticks. Even if it's not fact, it feels true in a way we can't quite shake. So what can we take from it? Flight 914 may be a modern myth. A story built not on evidence, but on something more powerful. Our longing for closure, for miracles, for the extraordinary to be real. But what if, somewhere in some dusty archive, one piece of real proof still exists? A photo, a tape, a landing log with a date that doesn't belong. Until then, all we have is the story, the legend, and the haunting idea that some flights don't vanish because of physics, but because someone wanted them to. Thanks for watching. If you found this mystery as fascinating as we did, hit like, subscribe, and tap that bell, because next time we're diving even deeper into the sky's greatest unsolved secrets. Solved secrets. Solved